One other thing though that you do other than localization is you're in a band called the Primals.
Oh, yes, I am.
How did that come along?
We want to do something at FanFest.
Yeah.
What's a cool way to end FanFest?
Yeah.
And Soken was like, oh, you ended on a concert. Everyone gets all excited. And like, okay, who's going to do the concert? We don't have enough money to, hire a band. And Soken's like, we could be the band. I thought we were just doing this in-game only. I'm like, don't worry about it, Koji. Power of science. Like, there's only so much the power of science can do. I'm going to be up on a stage.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Trash Taste Podcast. I'm Joey, and I'm with the boys, Gart and Connor, as per usual. But sitting next to me this week is a guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Michael Christopher Koji Fox. I am, the localization director on Final Fantasy.
You guess?
That's the thing. I do a lot of things.
Yeah.
What is on your business card?
On my business card, I think it says Creative Studio 3 Localization Lead or Localization. I don't know what it says. I don't have one. That's the thing. It's like I do so many different things that there isn't really one. It's not like, okay, I'm an art director or I'm a programmer. They just have me do a lot of different things. And localization is one of the main things that I do. But hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about today all of the other things that I do as well.
I asked my good friend Pete, who is a massive Final Fantasy fan for a very long time, I was like, we met this really cool guy called Koji Fox, and he freaked out. He was like, Koji Fox is a legend, dude, in the Final Fantasy community. So he was really stoked that we got a chance to speak, and I'm really excited. And obviously all the work that because obviously we filmed a video with you that will be out at some point soon, or maybe now.
Hopefully by the time this episode's out.
It should be out by now, right?
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun, and it was really cool getting to chat with you just then. So we were like, we got to have you on the podcast.
Yes. So, thank you.
Yeah, I think obviously it would be great to hear about first what you do. Obviously you've mentioned a bit about it, and then perhaps how you got into it. Because obviously being in Japan, it's quite the journey to get here to work in a Japanese company and for so long as well.
Yes, it's been, I joined Square Enix the day it became Square Enix. So I interviewed with Squaresoft.
Right.
Back in 2000, I want to say it was 2003 when the merger happened. 2003 April was when I joined. So I probably interviewed back in 2002 towards the end of the year with Squaresoft.
Right.
And it was a matter of basically I was teaching up in Hokkaido. I had actually studied in Japanese university over here for 4 years in Hokkaido. Got my teaching license, got my certification, was a teacher for 3 years in a junior high school, was teaching English, but most of the time I was coaching basketball. The first day I came in and they're like, okay, Koji, you're going to be an English teacher. You're also going to be coaching basketball. I'm like, any reason? It's like, because you're tall. Like, and for him, it wasn't like, it wasn't a joke. He was just like, tall in American basketball. And I'm like, okay, sure, I can try. And it turned out that, like most of it was basketball. Like immediately every day the school ends at like 2:33. Immediately basketball practice until
Wait, have you
like
had any
7, 8
experience in
o'clock.
basketball up until that point?
I played a little basketball. I'm a fan of the Portland Trailblazers, being from Oregon.
Right.
But I'd never coached before. But so it was learning on the job. It was a lot of basketball coaching and teaching English. And I would just go home tired every day and play Final Fantasy XI. And I was just online one day checking out if there was, some tips for getting it. And I saw that Square Enix was hiring. And I'm like,
At this point of being in Japan, were you pretty fluent at speaking Japanese?
Yeah,
as well?
I mean, I had, again, being the teacher, I wasn't like an assistant teacher. I was just a regular teacher there. So I had my own homeroom. I was doing parent-student conferences, parent-teacher conferences. And so my Japanese was fine to get through, day-to-day stuff. Yeah. And then I saw that they were hiring for localization, and they were hiring for Final Fantasy XI localization. I'm like, I know Japanese. Yes. I know English. I'm playing FF11. I can do this. How hard could it be? I took the test. Before you take the test, you had to submit a writing piece. They had me write. I think they asked me to write, choose a Final Fantasy character from any Final Fantasy game.
Yes.
And they're warped into Japan.
Yes.
And write 1,000 words on their adventure.
So you had to do some creative writing as well.
And so I chose the ninja Shadow. and had him
the goat.
Yeah.
Yes, and I had him warped into Shibuya, and he's just like, he thinks everyone's a mercenary, so he just starts going on this rampage and like killing all these people in Shibuya. Somehow, somehow they called me back, and then I did a test, a Japanese to English translation test. I had a bunch of interviews, and and they were looking for someone to translate Final Fantasy XI. I knew the game, so maybe they thought, hey, this will save us on training, because he's already
understand the game.
And it all kind of started from there. And then I worked on FF11 for a number of years. From there, I got to work on usually in the localization department. If you're on an online game, they usually move you to an offline game to get experience on both, because just the way that they're created is so completely different. After working on 11 for a couple years, I worked on Dirge of Cerberus.
You're telling us about this. The game that didn't do too well.
Yes, the third-person shooter in the Final Fantasy VII world, starring Vincent Valentine. Yes, it was an experience.
It sounds like peak 2000s. Like this is something that would come out in the 2000s.
Yes, it was a lot of fun working on it. It was the first game that I worked on that had full voice for the cutscenes, so I got to go to voice recording for the first time and work with voice actors, and that was a lot of fun.
Was that nerve-wracking when you had to work with voice actors the first time? Because you're like, this isn't my... Well,
luckily, the voice director for the Japanese version came with me. So in the studios in LA, it was myself as well as the Japanese voice director as well. And so we were both there in the studio. And of course, that voice director didn't understand any English, but was kind of taking my word for it on the acting, also giving me, tips and tricks, especially for like battle voices and things like that I hadn't done, and what are the best way to do these. And so I learned a lot from the voice director. Halfway through though, they went back to Japan because they had to work on the Japanese version. So I'm like, okay,
it's just me now.
A lot of interesting stuff in that. Voice actors are a unique lot. Some of them, I mean, they're all, everyone that I've worked with has been, absolute pros when it comes to voice acting, but they're quirky. And maybe it's also because it was LA as well. So it's got the Hollywood.
You get the peak quirky.
There was one time, you have the booth, right? And you have the big window that you can see. We're in the control room, they're in the booth, and you can kind of, see them. Yeah. And then when they're standing up in front of their mics. And so we're in between takes, and all of a sudden I look back and the guy's gone. He's not in the room anymore. I'm like, where did he get? Excuse me, are you? And then he pops up. He's like, sorry, I was just doing some push-ups. It's like, okay.
I had to hype myself up.
So the dude was just like in there,
fair enough.
in between lines, doing push-ups,
maybe
getting a couple reps in. I guess. That was a lot of interesting characters, and learned a lot about voice recording, what to do, what not to do. What to do better. Lots of stuff to build on. And then from there, I worked on this game called Code Age Commanders, which came out in Japan, and it was all ready to come out in the West until it released in Japan and didn't do as well as maybe the company thought it was going to do.
Right.
And then they thought, well, we probably don't need to do this in English. And so canceled the game after I had. Are they saying you can't talk about this? Okay, no. I was thinking.
No. We're just looking at the
Code Age Commanders.
Pull it up.
It was a really cool game.
Wow.
It was the first game directed by. He was an art director called Naoto-san.
Yeah,
you maybe know his art from like Final Fantasy VII and lots of different Square Enix games.
Right.
One of Square Enix's
but it was a
best
property that
others.
wasn't Final Fantasy. It was a
yes,
new
it was
IP.
a new
Right.
IP.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
And it was another action game. So again, like Square Enix is like known for the RPGs, but for some reason, hey, it's the 2000s. Let's start doing a bunch of third person.
Because it was very popular at the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like,
and this wasn't as popular as they probably hoped it would be.
The box art is so sick.
It is.
But you'd already done all the work.
And the thing is, like I was on the project while they're working on the Japanese, and this is back in the day when they make the Japanese first and then
Figure it out after.
do the localization later. And so I had gotten on the project early enough that, okay, I'm just going to start working on it. They hadn't told me to work on it. There's like, just play the game, get used to it. But like, I'm going to do this.
Oh, wow.
And I had translated the whole game, and literally the next week they're like, about that, Koji. And so there's a bunch of files on my computer somewhere with the whole script of Code Age Commanders translated into English. So if they ever
So
decide,
there is a translation out there. If they ever want to do
ready to go.
it's ready. Although I'd probably go back and retranslate. I was young back then. So.
Right.
Is this game like a cult classic, or people still talk about it, or is it kind of a forgotten time?
So I did mention this when I was in America once, and one guy was like, "Oh my God, Code Age Commanders! I imported that. That's the greatest game ever."
Yeah.
Literally, one guy so far has told me.
Right.
So
You've
there's
probably made
one.
like 5 people extremely happy by mentioning
Yes.
this.
Who knows? Who knows? Code Age, the thing is, Code Age Commanders. It was very difficult. There was a high learning curve.
Yeah.
It wasn't a known IP because it was new.
Right.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I thought it had a quirky story. It was all about like DNA.
Yeah.
And there's like these. Play it, find it, and play it.
I just don't have to.
PlayStation 2, Code Age Commanders.
I'm sure I can find it. I'm sure I can get a copy. Shouldn't be difficult in
This was
Japan.
cool.
That's so cool though. And then obviously after that game, you
Well, after that, went back to Final Fantasy XI. Helped out with I think it was the Wings of Altana expansion, and then that was about the time when they started talking about, okay, we're going to make the sequel to FF11 Online, which would be Final Fantasy XIV. This was when it was still under the director Tanaka-san's control. It was the 11 team that was going to be creating the new 14, the 1.0, the dreaded 1.0. And I worked on that. I worked with the lore creator, a guy named Kenichi Iwao, that did all the lore for 11, also did that original lore for Final Fantasy 14. We were building the world together,
Right.
Naming the races, figuring out these backgrounds. And we kind of did this, together. It was the first time I got to do actual lore work instead of just localization work.
it sounds like a lot more than just what people maybe assume, which is just pure translation.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a lot more on the creative side that you're involved
That was the really cool thing about the Final Fantasy 11 team, and then those people that moved over to Final Fantasy 14 is that they wanted to create something that felt very international, and so a lot of things that had to do with naming, that had to do with the lore and the mythology that they were drawing on, they wanted to do something very Western.
Yeah.
You had this team that wanted to create something that felt Western, but Western through the eyes of a Japanese devs, and so. Having me there and having the localization team on site meant that they could come to us and ask us ideas about,
Is this Western?
Is this Western enough? And the thing is, or they'd have these ideas that they thought were Western.
You're like,
but we're like, no, sorry about that. But I don't know if that's gonna. I mean, we can try to take that and So
I can only imagine some of the stuff that must have come your way. You're like, well,
I mean, you get some terms that are okay, like they just open a dictionary and they're like, oh, this word means
and you're like
this, and I'm like, okay,
word.
it means that, but maybe in the third definition, if you use it in this, you normally no, sorry.
Yeah.
And so it's just a lot of back and forth with this team to create this world. But, as 1.0 development it was kind of a mess at times.
So what was, obviously you were mentioning that it was less kind of collaborative and more focused on just Japanese first. What was the push on do you think the Japanese side to maybe try and get more of like a global view on the game?
I think especially when you're creating an MMO and it's a global MMO, that your audience is not going to be just Japan. Your audience is not going to be just one region. They wanted something that was global, and I think that was what they're aiming for back in FF11. FF11 was a lot more popular in Japan. I think it's just because of the PlayStation, having an MMO on the PlayStation was not something that I think the West was ready for, just hardware wise and also internet wise.
I know the Ethernet made it to the PS2 in West, and because did it ship with the Ethernet?
I mean, you could get the unit. There was a little thing you could plug into the back that did have the Ethernet plug in it. It was just not common at all. And the biggest thing that was the biggest problem at the beginning of the Final Fantasy XI's life was that internet speeds were just. I mean, in Japan, you have a small country and everyone got ISDN when it came out, and then when you had the optical fiber, everyone got it because a small country infrastructure was there. America, it's like, I mean, AOL just closed last month. I think people were still having dial-up until last month, 2025, and that's back then. Back in 2000, I think, what was it, 2005 or 6 when the first Final Fantasy XI came out. No, it was all dial-up. It was all old modems, and the infrastructure is there. No one could play the game. And so it wasn't, but that was the thing. Like they still had this vision of wanting to create this MMO for the world. They had looked at they looked at the RuneScapes, they looked at the EverQuests, and they're like the Ultima Onlines, and like, this is what we want to make. We want to make something that brings the world together and does this. And so they always had this kind of, okay, we're making it in Japan, but we're thinking about the world.
Yeah.
And that's something that, the team has maintained, even though, you've gone through lots of different team members from 11 to 14 1.0 to 14 what it is now.
Yeah.
There are still that ethos of like, we're making the game for the world is still there. And that's why I think they put a lot of emphasis on localization. You have a localization team that's in-house for not just the English, but also French and German.
Yes.
Those versions, and having not just doing localization, but also getting the feedback from those team members. When you have an area that's kind of like based on, old Germany, you have the German team there to give, feedback on, okay, what kind of terminology do I want to use here? Or, know, what's going to fit in the game or not? And always kind of having that back and forth and having us to, it's great for us because we give that feedback, but also us being there means that we're also connected to the team. So if we have any localization questions, we can ask them immediately. And it just keeps, it's a perfect setup for everyone, I think. And I think the world benefits.
Yeah.
But boys, before we move on, let me tell you about today's sponsor, the good folks over at Vessi. If you've been a long-time viewer or a listener of the Trash Taste podcast, then you should know by now that over here at the Trash Taste podcast, we won't cover our feet in anything unless it's Vessi's. Why? Well, it's because rain, sleet, snow, or shine, I know that no matter what the weather or the terrain is, Vessi's is there to give me the best comfort and the best protection for my little tootsies. And if you're thinking to yourself, how do I get started on Vessi's? Point me to the signs, Joey, then let me introduce you to the Weekend Sneakers. With its waterproof Dymatex technology, slip-on ease, breathability, and lightweightedness with all-day comfort, and with just a wipe or a rinse being super easy to clean, then you will know that the Weekend Sneakers are there for any time, any weather, any terrain. Plus, when you shop over at Vessi, you get a 1-year warranty on your shoes, plus a worry-free 30-day returns and exchanges. And on top of that, if you live in North America, then you get free shippings on orders over $110. So boys, what are you waiting for? Scan that QR code on screen right now, or go to vessi.com/trashtaste to enjoy 15% off your first order. That's vessi.com/trashtaste. Back to the episode.
Well, it makes me wonder what, and if you don't know the answer to this, please tell me. But like, what was the creative decision behind Final Fantasy 16 and having that recorded, recorded in English first as opposed to Japanese? And how was that on your end, having to coordinate a Japanese company doing what is essentially an English story.
Yeah, because was 16 the first mainline Final Fantasy where that was the case, where it was recorded in English first?
Yes, the first mainline Final Fantasy. It wasn't the first game that Square Enix did.
Yeah.
I think we did have one game before that that was recorded in English first. Do you want to guess what it is? It's not Final Fantasy.
Square Enix?
I'll also give you a hint. There was a dog in it named Torgal.
Not okay.
I know Toggle. Oh my god.
Yeah,
right,
I know the character.
I know Toggle. Oh, wait. Toggle is, I think he's Clive's dog, right? No? Yeah.
And there was also a dog named Torgal in the game that was also directed by Takai-san.
What?
I have no idea.
Final Fantasy VII Remake? I don't know. What is it? Okay, I don't know. I give up.
Put it up on the screen.
Toggle?
And you're gonna be like, oh.
So Toggle, type Toggle. All right.
Type in Toggle.
Toggle Final Fantasy.
No, Toggle, just Toggle. Toggle dog.
Toggle dog.
Toggle dog, Square Enix, not Final Fantasy 16.
Okay. Magic the Gathering? No.
Toggle.
Final
Is it gonna pop up?
Yeah, it's all 16
It's all
now.
16.
You have to do minus.
Did you see
Down
something?
there?
Did you see it?
Right. My glasses are off.
Oh.
Wait, what?
Square Enix Tetsu's
Oh, because that's
Toggle.
Nomura-san
too
took that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not 16.
Damn, 16 is.
People also ask, is Torgal a good boy?
Toggle sure is a good boy.
Sure is a good boy.
I don't know. What's the answer? Are we allowed to?
Do we know it?
It's not Infinite Undiscovery, but it came out at around the same time.
Togo.
This is gonna kill me, I feel.
You can put in Hiroshi Takai Rex. Oh, you need to remove like.
Yeah, you gotta get rid of
Torgal. Just put in.
Just type in Square Enix Hiroshi Takai.
Yes!
Oh,
Come on, guys!
Oh, Lost
Yes.
Remnant.
Damn.
I never played Last Remnant.
You never played Last Remnant.
No,
I have not either.
Does it hold up? Should I play it?
Last Remnant is a.
I had a few of
It's
my
hard.
mates who
It's
played
hard.
it. Yeah.
Really?
How-
What
It
what
was.
type of
I'm
game
going to
is
say
it?
it was ahead of its time.
Okay. That
It was
means
ahead of
two
its time.
things. It could be.
It was
either
ahead of its
too good.
time. But there was a Torgal in it also. It was the first game that Square Enix did that we did the English first.
Right.
Oh.
What made you guys decide on that?
I don't know. I think that was, again, it was a.
Well, there was
a
a-
Takai-san.
You're
thing.
right,
I think
There's quite a big gap between this and
Yes.
16, so
Yeah.
maybe they were a bit scarred by the process and want to do it again for a while.
possibly.
Enough time had passed where they'd forgotten it.
possibly.
Maybe it was,
Yeah.
you know.
But,
But you worked on 16 there, right?
I did. I worked on Final Fantasy after working on 11 and moving on to 14, on to 14, A Realm Reborn with Yoshida-san,
You're
and then
still working on 14 as well, right?
Well, I do a little bit on 14. I've
okay.
pretty much passed off my translation lead duties around Shadowbringers,
okay.
and that's when I moved over to the core team of Final Fantasy 16.
Right.
Get that started up. And so while I still am a supervisor on Final Fantasy 14, most of the day-to-day stuff is handled by Paul, who I think you met.
Yes.
in the
Yes.
last,
Yes.
Yeah.
He is the lead now, and he has a team of several people that are in Japan as well as around the world that are pretty much doing what hopefully I was doing back then, but they're doing it better. I'd like to think. No, I'd like to think because they are doing it better. They're doing a great job.
Yeah.
But around Shadowbringers, I moved over to 16 because that was like a full-time type of thing.
What was that entire process like?
So,
I mean,
that's a loaded question.
I guess, okay, so
But-
I guess the good thing to start was, what was that conversation like about perhaps recording it in English first? Because I imagine that must have been done really early on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the first thing that when I joined the team and I get a booth right next to My Hero-san, and he's like, okay, this is how we're going to do this.
Yeah.
We're going to record in English first. And I'm like,
There's no discussion.
I'm like, okay. And he's like, why? It's like, well, because they wanted to create something that felt like a Western drama.
Right.
Because they had grown up watching Western dramas. They'd grown up watching Indie Jones on Friday nights on, the Japanese TV.
Right.
They had, this was currently when I think the Game of Thrones, either the first or second season had just come out. And so they're watching this and they're all getting blown away by this.
Yeah.
They're playing games like Uncharted. They're playing games like The Witcher. And they're like, this is what we want to make. And we want to do it like this. And we want to have it be, again, like this global type of thing. They want to create something that feels Western.
Yeah.
But they also understand that the dev team is 99% Japanese.
Yes.
And so it's like, well, we have an image of what the West should be based on what we see on TV and movies, kind of like the West has an image of Japan based on what we see on TV and movies and anime.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think they understood enough to know that, like, well, we're not experts on the West. What we think is the West, we understand is probably not the West.
Yeah.
So we want it to be legitimate for users in the West, but we also want it to be what our image of the West is.
Right.
So they want to make it this thing that's not completely 100% Western. It's Western through their eyes, but something that's not going to be so jarring to people in the West that they're not going to want to play it.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like this thin line that they're trying to walk. And so they brought me over because I had been with the company by then for about, I don't know, almost 12, 15 years by then. And they had known me from working on 11 and 14 and other games. And they had, I guess we'd built up enough trust that they were okay with asking me these questions and saying, okay, what do we want to do here? How do we want to go with this? And they wanted that feeling of, they wanted to make a game that felt like it was a dub of a Western movie. And so, of course, if it's going to be a dub, or not a dub, like a sub version of a Western movie. So they want that English version first, and then
Right.
to do the Japanese after that. Like they took a Western movie
Yeah.
and then they put Japanese voice actors
Right,
onto that
right.
to, and like a lot of the voice actors that they got for the Japanese version were not anime voice actors or game voice actors. They got voice actors for TV and movies that had done where, like I think one of them was
Like
the
they did
guy
dubbing
that,
work.
Yeah, they'd done dubbing work.
Right.
Like one of the guys was like, he was always Harrison Ford. And they got him. He's the voice of Harrison Ford in a lot of like Japanese.
Right.
And then they got
Nice,
that
yeah,
person to
yeah,
come
yeah.
in. And so they wanted it to feel more like a movie. Because again,
Grounded, yeah,
Yoshiki
more
was like
grounded,
saying
yeah.
that like, this game is going to be less a game. It's more like a movie experience. Like it's like a 20-hour roller coaster where you're watching this,
I mean, even just the first 2 hours of that game, they're
just
pretty
like-
epic.
I mean, that was
Pretty-
that was a great prologue.
Yeah.
That might
Yeah.
be the greatest like first hour and a half of video game like cutscenes ever. Like it
Yeah.
was so cool. I wish I didn't get to play more though. I'm so annoyed. But I've done the opening twice. So it's life. But that was so cool. So but then I imagine deciding to do it and all the ideas
And
sound good in your head.
implementing it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like
the
I think
conversation sounds good.
everyone thought that like, this is going to be a great idea. We can totally do this, but not realizing how difficult it was going to be. And the
Yeah.
thing is, like, from my perspective, I knew how difficult it was going to be because pretty much my whole career at Square Enix had been the Japanese comes first.
Yes. Yeah.
We have to figure out a way to match lip flaps, match timing,
Yes.
match quirky motions by the mocap actors.
And the whole time you got to schedule time zones as well. So
Yeah.
and then that means there's only like a limited set of hours a day you can work with, really.
Yep. And I mean, there's so many things. And then also just having things change after you've recorded them and thinking, hey, I'd love to do this. And oh, we can't do that again. And I mean, just all of the logistical things, just the order of everything that I had already experienced that. So I knew it was going to happen. And I tried to let the team know, like saying,
This is gonna be tough.
like, okay, we're ready to record now. And is it okay if we record now? Like, because once we record,
Yeah,
that's it. And
No
they're like,
redos.
oh yeah, go ahead and record. And oh yeah, you can totally do ad libs. It's like, okay. We went in, we recorded, do the ad libs. They get the voice files back. It's like, oh, we can't use this. We need to rewrite it. And that's what happened. So the original script was written in Japanese by Mahiro-san. Then we got that script. Then myself and the other translator on the team, John Taylor, who is a veteran of a lot of the Dragon Quest games, basically brought him on because we were going to use British English. I'm an American.
Yes.
We needed to have a real Brit on to keep me grounded.
Nice.
Our editors were all British, as well as John, who is British himself. And so make sure things are on the level there.
Authentic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we took that whole script, we translated the whole thing. And again, when we were told to translate it, we're like, make this as natural as possible. Make it sound like it was written in English, is what we were told by Mahiro-san. It's like, yes, you need to, follow the story beats. But if you need to change things to make them sound more natural, or you think like an order needs to be changed because it's more natural to have English flow this way than this way. He's like, go ahead and change it. But after we did that, then we went in and we had these meetings where a series of meetings that lasted probably about 3 or 4 weeks, where we went over every single line in the game. And basically told him, this is how we translated it. This is how we did it differently. Anything that was a major shift from what was in the original Japanese, I basically told Mahiro-san that this is how we changed it. And in those meetings, he would either say, okay, that's a localization thing. We're going to keep the Japanese as it is. Or he would be like, okay, if the English is going to be this, I'm going to change the Japanese.
So you're like almost pitching every line essentially and trying to be like, okay, this is why I think this works.
And I think a lot of the stuff, especially a lot of like the banter between Clive and Sid, a lot of that banter, while there was some of it in the original Japanese, there wasn't as much of it. And I kind of saw it as a Nathan Drake Sully type of thing, where they're just constantly going back and forth, just
as you
talking
would,
shit
as you
about,
would if you're on a
each other.
journey.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you've got this grizzled old, veteran of many wars, he's gonna be like, oh, you young
British
fucks,
man, won't make
all
it-
those are
no,
open
won't
and
make
whining
jokes.
like some, emo Generation X kid that Clive is.
Yeah.
And so, so they're just, this whole back and forth is us suggesting that it would be cool if, Sid could say this in response, and having it kind of be this back and forth. Because a lot of times you'll see that in at least a lot of the Japanese stuff, the stories that I had translated up until then, it was like a lot of conversations were one-sided. You'd have one person doing, I'm not going to say a lore dump, but they're just kind of explaining everything you need to know.
That does happen a lot.
And then the other character's just like, hi.
It's like,そうなんだね.
And I was like, okay, that's great, but that's not how we have conversations,
Yeah.
at least in the West.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of like, it's basically you're having playing
back and
catch.
forth.
It's
Yeah.
back
Like
and
it's a
forth.
little
It's-
too scripted otherwise, right?
Yeah, and you have people, completing each other's sentences,
Yeah.
cutting in, breaking off, and that's, I mean,
It's the natural flow of the conversation.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
and while that isn't very Japanese, if they're trying to really make something that feels like it's from
Yeah.
the West,
Yeah.
then we kind of have to, we thought that, we'd have to follow this conversation
for sure,
flow.
yeah.
Right.
And so we changed a lot of that. And what was really cool is My Hero-san was like, yeah, I can hear that. I can see that.
Yeah.
And he did have trouble kind of trying to make that natural in Japanese because that's
Yeah.
not how a lot of Japanese people have a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the understanding was that it's supposed to be Western anyway.
So-
And so they found a way to do it. And I
Yeah.
think, there's a lot of iterations that they had to go through to get it perfect. But once we had that back and forth and we had the English locked, then we went into recording. And when we were in recording, we did do ad-libs because in the booth there, unlike every project I'd worked on up until then where the character had already been decided by the Japanese voice actor, no one had decided the characters yet. I mean, we had a vague idea of
Yeah.
who we wanted them to be,
Yeah.
but they weren't solidified yet. And so it was up to the actors in the booth, Ben Starr, who played Clive, Stuart Clark, who played Dion, all of these great actors were basically told, okay, you've read about your character, you've read all of their lines, you see their arc, let's make this character. And we spent the first few days kind of
Yeah.
deciding on that character and those voices. So I would say that, the voice of Clive Rosfield is as much Ben Starr as it is me or My Hero-san. We all
Yeah.
contributed to that
Right.
voice, which was amazing.
cool.
Yeah.
But then that voice file gets delivered to My Hero-san. He's like, oh, none of this is going to work. And then he rewrites all of the Japanese again. So the Japanese had to be rewritten again.
Right.
The thing was, though, is that the English is now recorded.
Yeah.
And it's the source. And he's rewriting the Japanese. So it's like he's localizing now.
He's localizing the localization.
And the thing is, from my perspective, is like, yeah, that's what you do. You
Right.
get
Yeah.
the source and you localize it to make it the most natural in the source language.
Yeah.
But then you get people who are like, oh, the English is so different from the Japanese. I'm like, well, actually.
Yeah.
There's also so many aspects that could be a reason why it changes. I mean, even
Yeah.
myself, when I've done voice acting, I've been doing lines and I'll say something or I'll say the line wrong or I'll put the words in the wrong order. They'll be like, actually, that sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
Or I'll say something or I'll just spitball and they'll be like, let's
yes.
just try it. And then it ends up working out. There's a
Yeah.
lot. People are so quick to be like, the translators, the localizers. It's
Yeah.
like, there's a lot, it's a
It's-
lot more
there's a lot
collaborative
more
than
nuance.
I think a lot of people would like to give it
Yeah.
credit
Yeah,
for.
for
Yeah.
sure.
But also one thing that you noted that I think was really interesting, and you told me this when we spoke last time, and I thought it was really interesting, is that your job is almost more so about writing and being a competent writer and telling stories, as opposed to just being a
Pure
translator. And
Yeah.
that's what makes it so difficult. And I kind of stuck with me when you said that.
I mean, it is, I can, because I see both sides. I understand. I know that there's the purist side that thinks the translation needs to be as close to the source as possible.
Yeah.
There's others that like, no, it needs to be as natural as possible. And I think that, while both have their merits, ultimately I look at it as, I mean, language is different and language carries so much with it.
Yeah.
So much that you can't see, so much that you can't see in a dictionary.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a word that maybe has been used in a certain TV show will take on a different meaning that's in the dictionary because it's now part of pop culture because it was
Yeah.
used in this
Yeah.
way. And those are things that you can't know.
If you're not,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and those are things that get conveyed in the word and maybe won't get conveyed in the translation. So they need to be added in different ways. And so what's ultimately the most important, at least from my perspective, after doing many years of localization, is what was the writer's intent? Was the writer, what reaction is the writer trying to get out of their user? Are they trying to get them to laugh, to cry, to feel something? And if the translation, the ultimate localization does not, get that same reaction out of the user, then all of a sudden you have a different user experience. If you have the Japanese users are crying, but the American users are not crying, then something's wrong with the localization, even if the translation is completely the same.
Yeah.
You need to, bring that in. And I
fascinating.
think that to do that requires writing skill as well as, because that's how the Japanese writers can, evoke those emotions, is because they're doing that with their skill as writers.
Yeah, right.
If you're not doing that in the English or the French or the German, then,
Loses all nuance and meaning.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think being able to work so closely to the creator helps a lot because, I think when you think about localization, sometimes I think writer intent 100% is the most important aspect of localization. Unfortunately, not every translator localizer gets to work so closely with the creator to actually. So sometimes they're guessing the intents because, funnily enough, I 100% understand everything that you went through because I had to do exactly the same thing as well because I made a short film that was animated by a Japanese animation studio. Yeah. So I am the source material, which was I wrote a screenplay written in English, which was translated over into Japanese for a Japanese production, which then I had to localize back into English. And I wanted to ask you a question because during my process, I almost thought of the Japanese characters and the English characters almost as two different people, kind of, because they are achieving the same story beats, but maybe how they convey that might be there's a slight nuance in the differences of how they convey, how they talk or how they convey certain emotions. Almost like I think of myself, I'm multilingual as we all here are, and English speaking me and Thai speaking me are two different people almost, you know what I mean? Two different mannerisms, two different way of speakings. So that was the way that I approached localizing my own work. And I was wondering if you had any similar philosophy or thoughts around that as well.
I mean, I think again, because you mentioned that the Thai version of you and the Japanese version of you are different. It's because it's the culture that comes tied to those languages. And again, a lot of times we forget that there's so much culture in language and there's so much information behind each word that ultimately there is no exact one-to-one translation for anything. Because I mean, if we could do it like manga does and put a little star by a word and then translation notes, and try to explain the culture behind it. But when you're speaking, you can't do that. You can't stop to do that every time. And so ultimately then it becomes, you have a choice between either just ignoring that cultural beat or changing into something that's going to feel natural for the source language, for the source audience. And ultimately, who's playing the game in English? A lot of times it's, people that are native English speakers that maybe live in those Western cultures. And so if the majority of our audience is that, having something that feels natural in that language and you're getting those beats and you're getting maybe we're doing a different joke to get a laugh, but if we're getting the laugh, it's more important than maybe getting across the exact same joke in Japanese that's just going to fall flat. Because then the user's not going to laugh and you've kind of ruined that situation when the author wanted the user to laugh in that situation.
This episode is sponsored by Zocdoc. Guys, it's 2025, and those days of only going to the doctor for emergencies are over. No more waiting until you're walking it off for 6 months and it doesn't work. It's time to take our health seriously and get things checked out when we need to, and Zocdoc makes it easier than ever by helping to find the right doctor quickly and easily. Zocdoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click instantly to book an appointment. And with Zocdoc, you can book in-network appointments with more than 100,000 doctors across every specialty from mental health to dental health, primary care to urgent care, and more. And you can filter for doctors who take your insurance, are located nearby, and are a good fit for any medical need you might have, and are highly rated by verified patients. You can also filter based on specific preferences, whether that's looking for a male doctor, speaks a specific language, has availability that fits with your work schedule, or has an opening in the next day or so. And once you find the right doctor, you can see their actual appointment openings, choose a time slot that works for you, and click to instantly book a visit. We are not in the US, but if we were, we would definitely be using Zocdoc. Stop putting off those doctor appointments and go to Zocdoc.com/trash to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's Zocdoc.com/trash, Zocdoc.com/trash. Back to the episode.
One thing about 16 that I was very impressed with was your use of accents, because it was one of the first times I played a fantasy game that actually sounded like, there's British accents, but this was one of the first times where I felt like, oh, these are authentic British accents, not just your stereotypical ones that you'd normally hear in a fantasy title. And it was very surprising to see it come from a Japanese company as well.
Why did they get this right and so many other companies don't?
I mean, I think it's just because people don't place as much importance on it. I mean,
because a lot of the time there's just British, they're British.
And the thing is, for me, being an American, you hear the British accents and you don't think that there are multiple accents. You think they're just British accents. And you don't realize that, no, if you go literally 100 miles this way, you're now in a different region that has different types of accents. Or if you go, up into the north, you're going to have completely different accents. We don't realize it until, but then, once you hear it though, and you're like, oh my God, they are completely different. I can,
totally different.
you hear the Geordie accent, you hear, the Cornwall accent, you're like, oh, this is completely different. How did I ever think that these were the same? How did I think that Dick Van Dyke was a British speaker up there on the chimney? But that was, one thing that we wanted to do. And again, because we at Square, we had tried British accents with Final Fantasy XIV, and it was kind of like a mashup of just lots of different British accents. And the thing is, for most of the users, it was fine. But the users in the UK, the small portion, we would get feedback. It was like,
the hell is this accent?
this is not. And so with Final Fantasy XVI, because we had John Taylor again, being from the UK, and then our editors, we had this company called Schlock that they don't not only edit, but they've translated stuff in the like Ni no Kuni. They were the company that worked on that, and they're based in the UK as well. And so one of the first things that they were like, okay, Koji, we need to do accents properly this game. I'm like, okay, I'm all for it, but you guys are the pros on this. Let's do it right. And so. Immediately early on, we're like, okay, we have these different regions. Let's choose an accent for each of these regions and let's make it make sense. So we have the Northern Territories and they're like, dude, Geordie.
Bit rough around the edges.
And we have Rosaria, which is in the West Country. We're going to have them it's going to be all of the apple orchard farmers there making scrumpy in their bathtubs. and then you have Sambrec, who's the proper sort of the Queen's English. Dalmekia, okay, we're going to make them London. And so we decided that right from the beginning. And then we made sure that every single character that comes from that area, we got the data from the team, all the NPCs, for all of the hundreds of NPCs, which nation are they from? And then we got that data, and then we okay, we're going to make sure that our voice actors are, we're going to get West Country voice actors. We're going to make sure we get Geordie voice actors for the continent, Lancashire. I mean, we went all out, and when we stuck with it. And so hopefully, the point was to have that if a British speaker closed their eyes and they heard a new NPC, they'd know immediately if they're from Rosaria or Zambrec, based on the accent. And
even if you're not British, I feel like you can still tell or subconsciously be aware of these different accent shifts and appreciate it's gone into that.
And I mean, and it's, you hear the Geordie accent, you think the North. And so even if you haven't played 16, if you hear a clip of Gav, they're like, is this guy from the North? Yes, he's actually in the game. He's also from the North.
The first time I heard Gav speaking that accent, I was just like, oh, you're my favorite character already.
Gav is the one who sounds like he eats rocks, right? Or eats cigarettes and oil, which was...
So that's Sid.
That's
Ralph Ineson.
Yeah, he's a very famous actor. So a lot of the actors, when I heard them, I was like, whoa, this is like people I heard a lot when I was growing up on TV or something. These are all quite well-known actors.
Yes, we did get to work with a lot of people that were like, oh, I know this person from this. I know this person from this. We had a bunch of people from Game of Thrones, from The Last Kingdom, and then Ralph Ineson was out of I want to say out of all, but maybe there's another one. But out of all the characters, the only one that we didn't audition for, that I knew exactly who I wanted to play, was Ralph Ineson's character. I'd seen him in The Witch, which is one of my favorite movies. I just love that movie. Robert Eggers and that script is just like...
Can you pull up The Witch? I want to see what it looks like this.
Robert Eggers is goated. So.
What else has Robert Eggers done? He's done...
Did The Lighthouse.
Oh, also of course. I love The Lighthouse.
Nosferatu.
Watched Nosferatu as well.
I mean,
oh my God. Okay, so sorry.
And he's the father. And it's just you hear that booming, gravelly voice. I'm like, oh my God. This is amazing. And so I knew
imposing
that
voice.
I heard that. I'm like, okay, if I'm ever on a game where I get to choose a voice actor, I'm going to push for this.
That must have been so cool though when you sent out the request and it was
and the dude was like, because I mean I had seen he'd worked on Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
It is possible. It is possible.
I was like, okay, he's worked on a game before, and we sent it out to him, and his agent was like, oh yeah, Ralph loves working on games. I'm like, yes,
nice.
He was the coolest guy ever. Oh my God, he's so down to earth. I mean, you see him, he's like, movie star.
Yeah.
But he's in the
Yeah.
booth and he's just joking with you. I think during the media tour that we had, he came along. And after one night, he got super drunk and he was just like, Koji. I'm like, oh, this guy's the best.
That sounds amazing.
Hell yeah.
He is the coolest guy ever. So yes.
Oh, dude, hell yeah. That's so awesome. And it's awesome to hear that, like, how cool of an experience that was to work with,
Yeah.
like, bigger names as well in gaming. And also that gaming's gotten to that point now where,
We're getting like movie stars.
yeah, it's like they're seeing it as like equal. That's really
Finally,
cool.
I mean, because
Yeah.
back in the day, it was just like you'd get a lot of people that were like, "Oh, we don't want to do this because it's beneath us," type
Yeah.
of thing, because it's a game. Or they'd ask for ridiculous amounts of money to do it, to do their 1 or 2 lines, and then they'd just kind of half-ass their way through them
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's
Not
they don't
taking it
see
seriously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
Well-
now it's
I mean, you've been there for the entire evolution of just how the public views this as, the
medium taking it
the
more
medium being
seriously,
taken
yeah.
more seriously.
Yeah,
yes.
for sure.
I was playing Final Fantasy X not too long ago, and obviously the dub is iconic in many ways.
iconic.
And there are certain points, and I felt this when I've played other games as well, but where it is obvious that the actor doesn't get it. But they're delivering their lines, but you can tell they just don't know what the heck they are talking about. But the voice is there and all the things are there, but you can just tell from like maybe, and I'm sure you can tell as well, like you can just like, they don't get what they're talking about here.
Yeah.
They're just kind of delivering it, and it's.
and again, that there's so many reasons why that can
I mean,
happen.
games are
That-
a lot more complicated than a
Right.
movie. Or
Like
an
I think
actor.
that a lot of times, people that maybe, aren't involved with it will just see the final product and think, oh, wow, he's a terrible actor, or, oh, wow, that was terrible
Yeah.
direction, or,
Yeah.
oh, wow, that's a terrible script, or, wow, that's terrible localization. And the thing is, it can be those things sometimes, but other times it's just a mix of so many different things.
Yeah.
Like
so many little things have to go wrong, I think.
for example, you could have, maybe you only have one session left and you have 4 hours to record 300 lines, which means you only get one take.
Yep.
And you don't get to explain to a person, the background behind stuff. Or maybe, somebody came in late and they missed a session, so they only really have a little bit of time. Or maybe we did record a great line, and then afterwards, the Japanese decided to change the cutscene and cut out a big portion in the middle, but we have to use the same line that we have. And so we had to cut it in a weird place, or it doesn't sound the same. Or maybe the Japanese went and redid their line, but we couldn't do our line. Or, maybe the actor just didn't get enough reps in, doing his push-ups, and so he's in a bad mood. There are so many different reasons. And again, I will take responsibility for some of the stuff, but a lot of the stuff is just like, because there's so many moving parts.
Yeah.
So many moving
It's
parts. And
big.
and again, when you're not the source language, there's just so many things that separate you from it. Because again, it's made for the source.
Yeah.
The visuals are made for the source. The original recording is made to that. The lip flaps are all done for the source. And
Especially between like Japanese and English as well. Like you can't have two languages that couldn't be further apart culturally.
Well,
so like
I mean-
trying to smoothly transition that over in a natural way must be ridiculously hard.
well, even that, but like, that the fact that the languages are just so completely different, like grammatically and contextually, like, you have Japanese being, very high context. They cut out a lot of things. A lot of things are implied.
Yeah.
And there's lots of weird pauses and everything. Whereas English, you have to explain everything because we're lower context. So we need to put more words in there. But if you have the Japanese, where they're literally only a couple little flaps and they've said like a whole sentence because they've said like 5 kanji in a row. And in English, we need like, 30 words to say this, but we only have 5. And then there's a weird pause in the middle. So you get a like, and so I am going to tell you. And like everyone sounds like William Shatner trying to do,
We spoke about this once. I saw a study that had studied how long was the average pause duration that each language or culture was comfortable with.
Yeah.
Right.
In English, it was like 3. And that's like the most before it gets awkward. I think Japanese is like 6.
Right.
And it's like quite a long, 6 seconds is a long
That's a
time
long
to be
time.
silent for, at least in English, right? It's kind of
Right.
ridiculous. But in Japan, it's
But that 6
Pausing
seconds,
is-
that pause has meaning to it. There's stuff in that pause. Like I found this, like even when I was doing, the translations, where you'd have a lot of things end in ellipses. Like people that read a lot of, the manga as well. And like there's ellipses everywhere because it's the thing that comes after the ellipses that is now on the reader to imagine, oh, this is what goes in that spot. And so I guess they're giving you the 6 seconds to kind of like
Yeah.
process, okay, this ... means this, and this.
Yeah.
It's probably further dramatized as well when it's in fiction, right? Like 6 seconds in real speaking, it could be like 10, 12 seconds in a dramatized script, right?
So you recorded it all in English. It went great. I imagine there's probably some headaches on the Japanese side because it's probably their first time having to essentially kind of work from a localizer perspective.
Yes.
Of trying to do that, right?
They went way slower than they usually do. Normally, again, when the Japanese is first, they will spend a lot of time on each line because it's the first time you're recording it. They want to make sure they get it right. And they're afforded a schedule and a budget that allows them to spend a lot of time on it. But once you get the other languages, well, the base is already done.
Yeah.
So you don't need to spend, the thinking is, I'm not saying this is the right way, but the thinking is it's already done in Japanese. So you just need to use that Japanese. What could possibly be different? You just, you don't need 3 or 4 takes. You only need 1 take.
Yeah.
And so they schedule a lot more lines in an hour or 2 hours than they do for that first take. And so in the English, because we were not only recording first, but we were also doing mocap. We had the head cams on because they're doing facial mocap, always being done in English. And so we were going very slow. We would, sometimes I think maybe we would get when times that we need to do a lot of retakes and get the line just right, then maybe we'd get like 10 or 12 lines in an hour. Not all the time. We were averaging much more during the rest of the project, but there were times when, literally 5 minutes per line because we had to get it just right because it was the first time.
It's very important.
And, I've heard tales about games that have taken even longer. I remember when I was doing recording in LA once and the people there were talking about the God of War team, and the God of War teams, they do maybe like 5 lines an hour sometimes because they had to get it exactly right. That's how much of perfection. And you play those games. It's like absolutely amazing. But that's what they're doing. Whereas, like if you do like an anime dub.
Oh, it's
like
fast.
I've asked, like this, like 80 lines, like you're literally like not even a minute per line, and you're only doing 1 take and going on to the next.
I'd feel very rude sometimes if I was like, I really want to do that again. But I could tell there was a lot of, sometimes depending on the director, they might be like, you're being you're being, come on, we pay for the studio, we gotta hurry up. Because people, I think they sometimes forget that it's not the voice actor that's expensive, it's the studio that's expensive, and they paid for a certain amount of hours and engineer.
You're paying for the studio, paying for the engineer, you're paying for, the guy in the office,
the director,
everything everything costs money. And so they want to go. And so that was the thing. So because Japanese had usually got the luxury of spending a lot of time on each line. And now the English got that luxury. And now the Japanese is like, okay, we need you to do this many lines an hour. And then, of course, Mahiro-san gets in there. He starts listening. He wants to like rewrite all the lines in the studio. And they're like,
My first time.
And so I think it was kind of a culture shock for him in the sense that, oh, wow.
This is what you have to
this
deal
is what
with.
You have to deal with. But like from in the end, it's like I don't want to ever do this again. So, so you're okay with me doing it again? You just don't want to do it again. Okay, thanks.
This sounds like a Koji problem.
One other thing though that you do other than localization is you're in a band called the Primals.
Oh yes, I am.
How did that come along?
Can you explain the primals to me?
Okay. So the primals are in Final Fantasy XIV. Know that the summons are called the primals.
Yeah.
And so the primals are a band made up of Soken, the music director and composer on Final Fantasy XIV.
Very cool guy.
3 studio musicians, pro studio musicians from other bands in Japan. All of them are have industry veterans.
Right.
And then myself as lead vocals. And we cover the songs for the Primals raids. Actually, it's not just Primals anymore, but they're of the raid music. We do rock covers of those songs.
That's so cool.
In live venues.
That's so sad.
How did that start?
Was that just Soken being like, I
Yes.
want to start a band? Yes.
Were you like,
That sounds like
End of story. That's all there is.
Soken was very cool.
Yeah.
He was a really cool
Oh my
guy.
god.
Soken is crazy, and I have so many stories I could probably tell about Soken, but I probably cannot tell here. I mean, there's so many different things.
He's such a
Soken-
rock star.
Soken
he
is a rock star.
Does feel like the rock and roll lifestyle.
He is, and it's crazy because he is like, his dad was like one of the top trumpet trumpeters.
Trumpeters, yeah.
Trumpeters, I guess.
Like first trumpet in the Tokyo Philharmonic Orchestra or whatever. It's like one of the if you talk about like, you know, in the world of trumpets in Japan, everyone knows Soken's father.
Right.
And so he grew up like hardcore classical and background. I mean, he plays the trumpet. He plays the trumpet in one of the songs in the primals as well. So he can still play the trumpet. But as all children that are forced into like, you know, classical music do, they hit a point around high school where they're like, fuck this shit, I'm gonna rock. And
I'm gonna do my own thing now.
And grabs a guitar, grabs a Rage Against the Machine CD, and his life has changed.
Yes.
And the thing is though, like Soken still has those classical roots. And I think that's why his music is just so amazing.
Yeah, it comes through in the soundtrack of 14 for sure.
Yeah.
You have these, you know, tear-jerking, beautiful, you know, piano, violin, quartet type of classical masterpieces. And then you have these absolute heavy metal bangers on the same soundtrack. And they're both done by Soken. It's just because he just has this wonderful background and he embraces both sides and embraces everything in it. And so I think he was making music for 14, and again, because 14, it being, you know, the global game, Soken was like, I want to have lyrics with some of these songs for these battles. Can we do them in English? And he just came to me because I'd worked with him on previous titles. I first worked with him on Mario Hoops 3-on-3.
I was about to say, I didn't know this. I did a little bit of research before this episode. I didn't realize I've been hearing your voice since I was a kid because you voiced Black Mage in Mario Hoops 3-on-3.
Yes.
I did not know. I mained Black Mage in that game.
What is this game?
You don't know Mario Hoops 3-on-3?
No.
It's a Mario basketball game that was developed by Square Enix, I believe.
Yes, developed by Square Enix for Nintendo.
What the heck? And you voiced the Black Mage?
Michael voiced Black Mage.
What?
And I've been using Black Mage
Did not
since I was
know
a
this
kid.
game existed.
You didn't, dude. I fucking love this game.
This is a great game.
Awesome.
This is a great game.
What? This is like a really underrated Mario sports game.
That's so cool.
Yes, and so like, it's just it was one day. A lot of time for a lot of the games that Square used to make. A lot of times there wasn't, especially for a smaller title, there wasn't a lot of budget for, you know, large casts. And so a lot of side characters for a lot of smaller games would be voiced by people in the sound department, people on the dev team, or people in localization for the English versions. And so for this game, myself and one other localizer got called in to do the Black Mage and the White Mage and the Ninja.
That's so cool.
So yeah, we did the voices for that. And when we were doing the voices for that, that was the first time I worked with Soken. And then he eventually moved to 14. I eventually was on 14. He saw me. He's like, oh, you're the dude that I worked with on Mario Hoops 3-on-3. You know English. Can you write some lyrics for this song for me? And I think the first song I did was The Good King Moggle Mog.
Yeah.
The 12th. And I wrote the lyrics for that. And he was like, well, thanks for writing the lyrics. You can sing, right? I'm like, not really. It's okay. We've got enough, you know, the power of science. He uses that word so much. You can use the power of science to make it sound like you're amazing. And so he put on a lot of effects. And
have you had to practice a lot of singing as well since then as well?
It was supposed to end there. It was supposed to be that kind of one-off thing. But the users enjoyed it, so he made another song, Titan song. Like, okay, this time, Koji, we need you to like, you know, just like shout and rap. Oh, don't worry, power of science, we'll make it. And I did this for like 3 or 4 songs. And there were some that I didn't sing on either, like some with female vocals, so they got someone else to sing them. But I did it for about 4 or 5 songs, and then all of a sudden we have 4 or 5 songs, and Soken's like, okay. FanFest is coming up. We want to do something at FanFest. What's a cool way to end FanFest? And Soken was like, oh, you ended on a concert. Everyone gets all excited. And like, okay, who's going to do the concert? We don't have enough money to, you know, hire a band. And Soken's like, we could be the band.
Sounds like the lack of money is more opportunities for yourself.
and then I'll, you know, he's like, okay, and I'll play guitar because I can play guitar, and we hire these musicians. And like, and Koji, you can sing. It's like, I thought we were just doing this in game only. I'm like, don't worry about it, Koji. Power of science. Like, there's only so much the power of science can do. I'm going to be up on a stage.
Yeah, it's very different.
And
Goddamn.
we did a
perform
couple
the
times.
FanFest?
Before FanFest, we did a trial run with only Square Enix employees at a small little concert hall.
Yeah.
Near the Square Enix office, and we invited all the people from localization and the sound department in, and they were just like, and then we did FanFest and FanFest America, FanFest in Europe. I think it was in London that year, and then Japan, and those were in like front of 3,000 people, and it was just like, but
that's quite a big
Oh my God, that's massive.
Everybody was just like, and so like, okay, we got to keep doing this. Since then, So Ken just keeps creating more music. I keep writing these lyrics.
He's a madman.
And now we have, and so last month, Budokan.
That's pretty cool.
It's like, Bon Jovi, Cheap Trick,
Yeah.
the Primals, just playing the Budokan in front of 10,000 people, 2 days. But and like we had like 20 did like 20 some songs.
You're not only a localizer, you're a rock star.
Yeah.
I don't see myself as a rock star.
But it's undeniable you are.
It is, but it's so surreal though, because
Being on stage is so
literally
a different beast.
After being on stage and up there singing and doing the thing, and literally the next day I'm in the office. Otsukare-sama desu. Boku desu.
That's awesome though. I love that.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Soken's like, I just need any excuse to perform in front
I
of a
mean,
crowd.
getting
loves
any
it, man.
stage experience, I think it helps so much with any creative field, I feel like, because
for
it
sure.
just gives you such a better understanding of like presence and knowing how to like really use the space. I think because sometimes online you kind of forget that you can kind of just take it for granted that you don't really need to say or do much.
Oh yeah. The minute that you're up on stage and like you have eye contact with like 2,000 people, you're like, oh, I got
I gotta step up.
Kicks you into like this, this mode of like, okay, this is like a completely different mindset of like how to kind of like occupy.
And most of the time people are like, but there's always that one guy that's just standing there like this.
And you're trying to convince him. You're trying to convince that one
2
guy.
hours just. And I was like, okay.
And you're like, don't let it get to me. Don't let it get to me.
Don't let it. And then finally you get to like, you get to the end and they're encore and the guy's like, I'm like, oh yes, I did it.
That's so sick.
Oh man.
Oh my God, that's so cool. It's impressive that you joined Square and you've just been at Square since. Like, talk about just hitting the home run right away.
I mean, and that's like when I joined, there were so many more people. The people that were there that I joined, most of them are gone. I mean, only the legends kind of remain in that sense, and everyone else is. So it's just like it's weird because it's
a
like
hard job, and I imagine it takes a lot of mental fortitude. And obviously, everyone already knows that working in a lot of Japanese companies can be quite difficult if you're not used to the culture. So I imagine on top of that, with translating, and then there's also fan responses, and like that probably adds like a whole nother dimension to it.
It's
It's like
navigating the office scape that is, the Japanese workplace. It's very different. It's very different.
This episode is sponsored by Shopify. Look, when we started Trash Taste, we didn't know how to do anything. Setting up cameras, filming schedules, production, logos, all of that was new to us, and it was quite overwhelming, and every day seemed to introduce a new decision that needed an answer. When you're starting off with something new, it seems like your to-do list just keeps growing every day with new tasks, and that list can easily begin to overrun your life. And finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything can be such a game changer. And for millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started like Nonsense. And get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to help match your brand style. Accelerate your content creation because Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. And get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you and easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. So turn your big business idea into cha-ching with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/trash. Go to shopify.com/trash, shopify.com/trash. Back to the episode.
And we spoke a little bit off camera about, and on camera as well, about people who, because people always mention like, oh, I'd love to work at Square, or love to work at the Nintendo, or these companies, that they're kind of play a massive role in a lot of people's childhood. And I remember asking you, like, what is your advice for somebody who wanted to get into doing localization? And it seemed like you were like, okay, there's a giant list of prerequisites that need to be done.
Yeah.
And also you're not going to, the pay is not going to be like life changing.
Yeah.
No.
It's Japan. It's Japan. And the wage is what it is.
Yeah.
It sounds like it is a labor of love and very difficult. Because you need to be good at Japanese. You need to be familiar with the franchise somewhat. So you need to be a good writer.
Yes.
Then
Good communicator.
Also know how to translate, which is
Yeah.
different from knowing Japanese. It's very it sounds like how the hell do you find anyone?
It's hard to find people because and on top of that, being in Japan as well, that there are a lot of people around. And again, with
True.
it was different 20 some years ago when you didn't have Zoom calls and you couldn't work remotely and you had to literally be on site and be here to be able to do those things. Now the world has opened up a little bit. And so I know that on Final Fantasy XIV, we have some translators that are in Australia. We have some that are on the West Coast in America. We have, for the French and German versions, we have translators that are, in Europe as well.
Yeah.
And they're working, in tandem with the team. This is something that, we couldn't have had a long time ago. But I mean, if you do want to work at Square, yes, there's a lot of things. Again, and everyone assumes it's going to be, okay, you need to know the Japanese. Yes, that's a given. That's a given. That's the core. And that's because it's not just for the translation either. You need to understand the Japanese because you're going to be communicating with the dev teams. That's a big thing with Square Enix, is that we get to communicate with the dev teams. That's the whole reason, we have the localization department in-house is because we want the translators communicating directly with the dev team and getting that insight. And so you have to be a good communicator. And that means you have to have that Japanese, but also, like you said, you need to be a good communicator.
Yeah.
You need to understand how Japanese people communicate. You could be the greatest at Japanese, but if you don't grasp that communication culture that's in Japanese, knowing how to speak up to someone rather than down to someone, how to, knowing when to not say a whole sentence and where to cut it off so that you can imply things. And I mean, I know all understand that and having, because a lot of the people that you're working with are people that haven't worked with foreigners before. And so they're going to, if they hear you speaking Japanese, especially if it's good Japanese, they're going to expect you to act like a Japanese person and not realize that, because you grew up in a different culture, maybe you have a different way of communicating. They're going to expect you to speak like a Japanese person. Yeah. And when you don't, they're going to be like, I don't want to work with this person anymore because he's the rudest person I've ever talked to.
Right.
So it's being able to navigate that communication culture and understanding what you can and cannot say and kind of push down some of the things that maybe you grew up with, but being able to communicate in a way that is going to be on their level. And so that's very important. Then again, the English is very important. I mentioned, that I had to take that creative writing essay
Writing is a hard skill.
Before going into translation.
Yeah.
And because ultimately, again, your users are not going to ever see, most of your users, some of your users will, but most of your users are never going to see the Japanese. They're only going to see the resulting English. And they're going to compare it to other games that they've only seen in English. And so if your English level, the resultant translation isn't up to par with an Uncharted or up to par with a Disco Elysium, then people are going to be like, oh, this isn't as good. The writing isn't that good on this one. And so you have to make sure that final source language, that output, is at a high writer's level. And so that's another ask. Not only are you asking someone to be a master at Japanese, not only do you need a major in Japanese, but you need a major in creative writing and a major in communications. And you also have to like games and play a lot of games and, have all this background information on these things. And then on top of that, learn all of these things about voice recording, learn all these things about mocap, learn all these things about, programming and macros that you're using when you're doing the translation and working with
all. I imagine it's probably quite hard to, like you mentioned, find people. Or
and then you tell them, and also we're going to pay you shit. So how about it?
So you better really like this shit.
I mean, that's like half of what I read on Reddit is like, I really love Japan, but I don't really want a third of my salary.
And that's the thing. It's like, I say pay shit, but like Square Enix, pays well in Japan. It's just that when you compare that to America and then add the 150 yen to the dollar exchange rate, and all of a sudden you have interns at McDonald's making more than
Yeah.
lead artists at some
Yeah.
different companies or whatever. And so
Yeah. I mean, it seems like an absolute.
there has to be love there. There has to be that
You
love.
have to love it.
Yeah.
That you have to love it, and you have to. But again, if you over here in Japan, you're not living in America. You're not living in a Seattle or a San Francisco or an
like, I
Austin.
think that's-
You're not. You
yeah.
know. So yes, you're getting paid less, but the cost of living is significantly lower over here. You can you can get a sandwich for still like $3 or $4. Yeah, exactly. You can go to.
And also you have such a good quality of life generally, like daily,
Yeah, for
which I think a lot of people, there's not a dollar value to that. I think being able to walk to your everything you like and be able to commute everywhere.
Exactly.
Being safe as well.
Yeah, and like
everywhere you go.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people, they factor in just that, well, I can buy a sandwich, like you mentioned, like, and it's like, well, you also have to drive there, pay for the fuel, keep the car, get a horrible loan on the car, like all these things. And there's a lot more to it that I think people forget sometimes.
Yeah.
But and then, taxes are a mess as well.
Oh man,
You're American. No.
Oh God.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yes,
I'm so sorry.
Yes, we have to file every year.
Which is ridiculous because you have to pay someone presumably, or you have to do it yourself, which is time out of your.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of fun. Tax
How
time.
much fun.
Yay.
Adulting.
Oh,
Adults.
God.
I have to ask, and I know you'll hate me for asking this. Final Fantasy 14. I recently obviously played the first A Realm Reborn.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm playing the game. And one thing that obviously stands out is that it doesn't quite sound as polished as I'm trying to find the right words here.
It's okay.
I mean it in no offense.
No.
Like and obviously I'm playing this and Final Fantasy 14 is a massive, very dedicated fan base. I mean, if you haven't played Final Fantasy 14, one thing that people have on their cards is that you can put like a little punch-in time for when you're going to be online.
Yeah.
Which is so, I mean, to me, that screams to the extent of how social and how...
It's like community to work.
It's like I will be on these times. I'm going to raid here or I'll head down and hang out. Like it's a very, the fans are absolutely passionate about it. And the one thing that I just kept getting when I was playing it, because I'm streaming it, is that I promise this all gets so much better in the next patch. And it's like, I'm 50 hours in. This is a full Final Fantasy game. And obviously, I know there's obviously only so much you can say about it. And but I'd love to know maybe a bit about
What's the backstory?
What's the backstory about? As much as you can tell us. And obviously, I don't want to, I'm not trying to rock the boat or anything.
Yeah.
I think we've seen the amazing work. Love to know about maybe sometimes why it doesn't quite work out.
The journey, I mean,
journey.
it was a journey. It was a journey.
It's such a
like
big
I mentioned,
thing as well.
it was, the 11 team decided to make a new online game. And so that was what 14 would be. We call it 1.0.
Yeah.
And it was, there were things that could have been done better. I think they tried to do a lot of things that had worked in Final Fantasy 11.
Yeah.
But maybe didn't realize that the world had kind of moved on and they thought that they could just do maybe the same things.
Right.
And so there are a lot of things that felt a little bit outdated.
Yeah.
The grind, some of the UI elements,
yeah.
level design, things that worked in the EverQuests and the Ultima Onlines and the Final Fantasy, and worked in the older generation, but weren't what people now expected, because in between FF11 and FF14, you have World of Warcraft that had now basically taken over and had basically set a new standard for how these MMOs were supposed to play out. Whether quest progression, character progression, grind, things like that they had set a new standard. And 14 was content in maybe kind of playing it safe and doing the same thing that they did with FF11, while kind of making it powering up in areas such as like graphics or, but it didn't work out. The game was poorly optimized. There wasn't enough content. There was a little bit too much grind. And a lot of players were just like, this doesn't feel as clean as WoW does, because WoW lets you do all these things. Why can't we do these in 14? And so, the performance was bad. There was like characters weren't appearing. You could only get like 10 or 12, it's an MMO, but you only get like 10 or  12 people on screen at the same time. And there were things that needed to be, polished. And people were excited for it, but they were leaving it in droves. And I think the company was like, we need to we say, okay, that's cut it, or we need to remake it into something that's better.
Right.
And Yoshi P comes along and he's like, dude, this is an FF and it's a numbered FF. You can't cut this because that would be admitting defeat. You can admit defeat on maybe a smaller IP or whatever, or something. He's like, this is Final Fantasy. You got to have your pride. We have to do this. And he came in and he just was like, okay. He came in with a plan. He came in with this massive plan of not only how to remake the game, but how to keep users engaged while we were remaking the game.
Right.
So we have this, basically you split the team into two teams. The team that's working on the 1.0 version.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Doing updates for more than a year to keep current players engaged, while in the background creating an entirely new game, A Realm Reborn, that's based off of this game, but it's going to be using a new engine, it's going to be using new assets, but have sort of the same story.
Story is complex.
The story is complex. And so
gosh.
and so you get, and ultimately, the two kind of merged together and they kind of resolved into it. But you have this team that created an MMO from the ground up in like a year and a half, which is absolutely crazy. When you think about it, games take like 5-6 years to make, and that they were able to do that while also updating the original game that now no longer exists. All that stuff, all that work that they did in that year is gone.
Wow.
It's like, it's on YouTube. You can watch the cutscenes of it.
It's still one of the good, the greatest turnarounds in like gaming, really.
But
to go from a panned game to kind of really finding its place and still being so pop relevant.
And I think it's just, you have someone like, Yoshida-san come in with this vision. And that's not to say that, the people that worked on the original version had no vision. They had a vision. It's just that didn't end up working out. And then Yoshida came in and understood what needed to happen. And he was, he came in and said like, okay, the first thing we need to do is we need to make it more like WoW, because WoW is what everyone expects. So that's our baseline. We get to the baseline, and then from there, we're going to expand on it. But like getting 14 to the same level as WoW was the first step. And then from there doing something new. Because I think a lot of times developers always want to do something different from the beginning because they have their pride as well. They don't want to be called like copycats. But in this case, it's like, okay,
we got to get
to get to the baseline.
First, let's get to the baseline before we start making that
the race right now.
and again, when he came on to the team, it's like his passion was so infectious that you could people were like, oh my God, this guy, maybe he really can do. Because like, obviously he's like, oh, we're going to take this game and we're going to remake it in like, 18 months. And we're just like,
so you sure about that, bro?
But that's the thing, is
a lot
like
of sleepless nights.
a lot of us had already put in a lot of sleepless nights to get to 1.0. And when you work so hard on something and then only to see it kind of fail out of the gate, that is so soul crushing. Like, players will pick up a game, this fucking sucks. Or like the media will be like, oh, this is a terrible game. But like behind every review and every, there is like literally, the
It's
lives
people.
of 200 people or 300 people or 150 people or however many people on the team. And their lives for like 5 years, pouring their souls into the game, and each of them having pride in what they did. And sometimes the parts don't fit, and sometimes, things fall. And so when Yoshi P came in and said, I want to make sure that everything you did, all that blood, sweat, and tears that you put into that, we want to make sure that you get something from that the players know. And so we're going to make this good so that you can be, redeemed in that. And so we're just like, fuck yeah. And there was a lot of sleepless nights over those 18 months. Like it was absolutely crazy. It was absolutely crazy, but
worked out.
Turned it around.
When you were in the process of releasing it, was there any inclination, or you're like, people might not like this when it comes out, or you knew? Okay.
And the thing is,
a lot of
it depends on what team you're on, but like localization, sound, and QA, we're basically at the end of the line.
So you'd see more of the complete picture, I suppose.
So a lot of times the battle team will only ever see battle. Or the environment team will only ever see the environments they create. They don't see it put together because they do their work early on. And by the time it's all put together, they're either moved off on another project or they're doing something else. Basically, the first people that see everything put together is localization, sound, and QA. And
so there might have been a moment where you were like,
so I'm having this moment.
Oh gosh.
And there were some people on the team that were like, that went to the dev teams and were like, no, you need to change this. This is going to be really bad. And like the dev team, people would get, again, it was a matter of how you say
and
it.
Also, probably too late into the process.
Yeah. And so it was just, you could see it. You could see kind of, the train is kind of going, the bridge is out, and you're just like, you're pulling the brakes, but you can do the math in your head, and you know it's not going to make it. But you're still going like this.
Oh, that sounds awful.
But it is what it was. And then, but having the opportunity, because most of the time it ends there.
Yeah.
That's it. All of those people go home. They're either let go or they move on to the next project or the company goes under or whatever. We had the lucky situation that there was somebody that raised his hand. Yoshi came in and said, I'm going to change this. The company believed in that, gave him, the one chance to do it. And then he made sure that it happened. And
which is such a rare opportunity.
Yeah, when does that happen?
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
Well, I was going to say, like, Final Fantasy 14 is one of the very rare games where, you play A Realm Reborn and, A Realm Reborn feels old when you play it. And then you look at the newer content and it's almost a different game entirely. Even from the localization standpoint, you're playing 14, you're like, this sounds, and it's an older experience. And then you see the new stuff, you're like, oh, wow. What is there? I can't think of another game that has the same characters, but a different voice for the same characters in the same game.
Right.
Like, I don't even know if that's ever been done.
I mean, it's crazy because it was
that's like crazy.
The beginning, in the beginning, again, it was a very kind of rushed experience.
Absolutely.
To get the game done. And
absolutely.
so you make these decisions, you choose these actors, and then you realize, afterwards that like, okay, maybe this didn't work. Maybe we can do it a different way.
Yeah.
A lot of times actors, the game has been going on for more than 10 years. And so actors, they get old, actors get famous, actors decide they want to go off to Nepal and sit in a Buddhist temple for a year because they want to become one with nature. That's fine. There's lots of reasons, but people come and go. And so you have to do those changes. Like A Realm Reborn, the original was in 1.0, we had used actors in Hollywood because that's all we thought we had. That was the only option that we thought we had. We didn't think we had the option of recording in London, but we wanted to do British voices. That was the feedback that we got from the team. The team was like, well, we should do it like British voices, high fantasy. And so we're like, okay, but we have to do LA. So you go to LA and it's like, oh, we need British actors. Like, don't worry, we got you.
Like three of them.
It was literally like the director's like, we got you, we got this. And they just brought in a bunch of American actors that did British accents. But again, and this is on me not understanding that these are not authentic accents. I was just looking at the acting, and while the acting I think is solid in a lot of places, it's just the accents
just
are like
quite line up.
It doesn't quite line up.
And obviously, as a native speaker, you clock immediately when someone says one word out of place. That's like,
and that was the thing. And then we realized that afterwards. And then once A Realm Reborn did take off, and we're like, okay, we need to do this right. And so we made the decision from the next expansion to switch up our recording studio. We went from LA to London based.
That's so cool though, that you were able to make that decision. The game was still like the fans trusted Square enough to do that. Like that's in any other game, I think that would be quite the
massive risk.
It was a massive risk when we did it as well, but it was a matter of we knew from after A Realm Reborn, like, okay, this game is serious. It's going to last. We could kind of tell that we actually maybe did it. And so if we did it, then we need to be serious about it. We can't keep kind of trying to fool everyone with the British accents we're doing in LA. We need to do this properly. And so it was a question of, okay, if we do this, there's going to be a skip. People are going to notice that the voice changed. So do we either keep the consistency, but at a level that's maybe not as high as we want it? Or do we just kind of say, well, sorry about the jump, but at least it's way better now. And hope that the users understand that. And we decided that ultimately, because if we were thinking 10-year plan, like Yoshi had, if we have a 10-year plan, then let's do it.
But before we move on, let me talk to you about today's sponsor, Persona 3 Reload. If you know me, boys, I am what they might call a hyper fan of the Persona series. It is legitimately one of my favorite JRPG series of all time, and now you can experience the immersive and wonderful world of Persona 3 with the brand new retelling of the classic genre-defying entry in the franchise. Immerse yourself in modern-day Japan, making every moment eerily familiar, yet undeniably unsettling. Persona 3 Reload challenges the norm, offering a gaming experience that echoes the realities of the world we know, with a twist that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Explore the bustling city by day, forge unforgettable bonds with genuine characters, and leave a mark on their memories forever. Dive into the enigmatic dark hour by night, where shadows lurk and threaten the very fabric of reality. Immerse yourself in strategic combat, execute devastating attacks, and lead your team to victory. From one Persona fan to another, I can guarantee you that P3R is a must-try for any gaming fan, and now the game is finally available to play on the brand new Nintendo Switch 2 as well. So boys, what are you waiting for? How much more convincing do you need from me? Make sure to check out Persona 3 Reload by clicking the link down in the description below. A big thank you to Atlas for sponsoring today's video. Back to the show.
So what I want to know is like, was there a moment where you guys realized once a Realm Reborn came out that you're like, oh, we did it. We actually turned things around.
I mean, just like the player response, because we had seen the player response at launch, and everyone just kind of hammering it in reviews. Players being like, I really expected this, but I didn't get that. And it was, but there were those fans that stuck with it. There are the fans that stuck with the 1.x series, and so they're playing the updated content, waiting because they know, in the wings, we've got this thing that's going to be coming out really soon, a Realm Reborn. And the thing is, Yoshi P was very open at that stage. So we still have the original version, but Yoshi P was like, okay, here's our roadmap. These are the things we're going to make. These are the things we're going to change. So everybody knew what was coming. And then seeing that leap, seeing people stick with the original version that was very, very clunky and very, very, unwieldy in lots of parts, but people loved it for whatever reason they loved it. And that's great. Because we put a lot of effort into that, and having their people be out there that really enjoyed it is good for us as well. But going from there and then launching a Realm Reborn and people being like, oh my God, you guys did it. And like having people say,
that's
you
good.
did
That's
it.
pretty cool.
But like they're going like, I had no expectations for this. And like a lot of people were like, I'm going to wait and see what the reaction is. And then the reaction is good. And they're like, I heard the reaction's good. Maybe I'll get in. Oh my God, it's a completely different game. Oh my God, this is really good. Oh my God, they did this and this and this, and it's updated, and it's kind of snowballed. And it was a slow snowballing.
Cool. Right.
But you get to the point where it's like, oh wow, people really do enjoy this now. And you have that original core group that stuck with 1.0, and they've now come over, and then you have the people that maybe didn't like this, and they've come over, and they're now all together, and it's loving it for different reasons. And I don't know, it was just, again, I think after hitting so low that just any kind of positive feedback, especially after putting in 18 months of
the massive risk of having
literally going home, the last train almost every night for almost a year to get it there, but then seeing just the reaction is like, yes, this is what we wanted. And having people excited about it, that you're like, okay, this is, and then from there, the next expansion, and people getting excited about the next expansion, and just kind of seeing it snowball. And then, then it hits its stride at Shadowbringers and Endwalker, and people are just like,
it's cool seeing that like community event, even though I haven't played them and I don't play the expansions, but it's cool seeing how excited everyone gets for these expansions. They feel like big milestones. And it's just, Final Fantasy 14 fans are extremely dedicated. One thing I've learned.
The most dedicated.
Very dedicated fans.
Wonderful.
They care. They care a lot about it. And again, when you get in the game, it's very easy to understand why, I feel like, because the social aspect of it is so strong, and the cosmetics, and you're like, okay, I can easily see why someone would get lost in this world. They've done such a good job at managing the gameplay, the story, and the social element of it. It's really cool. It's really awesome to see.
Ultimately, like that social element is what's so important to an MMO, because while you do have the content that you play together, a lot of times it's just spent, visiting at somebody else's house, or it's like talking with your friends at a cafe. You're just talking with them in the game. You're still,
but we just get through the quests and like, go here,
having
go here,
that, and then sharing the experiences. We talked a little bit about the Primals concerts before. Like music concerts, when people go to music concerts, they'll hear the songs and everyone loves the songs. Like if it's like an Ed Sheeran concert or whatever, they all have like their memories of the first time they heard that song and why it's important to them. Maybe it was playing when they, broke up with their boyfriend. And so it means something powerful, but it's going to be different for every person.
Yeah.
One person's experience with the song is going to be different from another person's experience with the song. So you're sharing Ed Sheeran, but you're not sharing that experience.
Yeah.
With the Primals concerts, all of those songs are linked to a raid or a main scenario quest. So everyone has experienced the same thing. Everyone cried at this point because there's this emotional beat and this song plays and everyone cries, or everyone, spent, 8 hours fighting this guy and they finally on their 20th try defeated him, and that song was playing the whole time. And everyone has that experience. So you have a hall that's filled with 5,000-6,000 people that all have the shared emotional experience with that song. And so it's completely different. And I think that's what it is that like all the people in this Final Fantasy XIV world in Eorzea that are there in this community, they've all shared the same experiences. And so that's a stronger bond than just, than anything else, I think. And so that's why, and that just brings everyone together. And that's why everyone feels like, they're your brothers or sisters or whatever in arms.
Damn. That's
the philosophy
cool.
of it is so cool. Yeah.
Everything I know about 14, it just makes me want to get into it.
I've had to fight the Yoshis because other than 11 and 14, I've pretty much played every single mainline Final Fantasy game because it's just one of my favorite gaming series of all time. But the MMO aspect and the time sink of those games, because I know I'm going to be into those games, is the only thing that scares me as a 31-year-old adult that has other shit to do. But I've had so many of my friends just being like, so you're going to play 14, right?
I was speedrunning through, and also I want to ask who the hell keeps making me return to the Waking Sands, by the way. I want a conversation with this person. We got to talk. I am so sick of returning to the Waking Sands.
So sorry.
I pray tell to the Waking Sands. Shut up! I don't want to go back to the Waking Sands anymore.
I take no responsibility for Minfield.
Who do I have to talk to? I want to know which psychopath did this. It's like 40 hours to get through A Realm Reborn, and that's like kind of, and I'm playing this and everyone's like, yeah, that's the part you just got to get through. I'm like, there's no other game in history is there a 40-hour part where you got to get through.
Well, I think
40
it's like
hours.
we have been streamlining. We have added features recently.
It's changed a couple of times, right? Not just once.
Where they've cut out the amount of quests you have to do
I noticed
in the early game. So we've streamlined those early parts because I understand that, because that's a big thing, especially with an MMO that's been going on 10 years and you want to get new players in.
Yeah.
But to tell them, okay, we have this new expansion that has all these wonderful areas, but you just have to play 200 hours before you can go there. That's not going to sell people to get it. And so we are looking into ways, the team is always looking into ways. And with each expansion, we add new things that basically they cut down on the amount of time that you need to play those earlier quests. They've condensed them down into only the most important ones, and you can skip other things and streamline through that, so you can still see the story, still experience the characters and the emotional beats, but not have to put in as much time. The problem is that there's 10 years of content. So no matter how much you cut out, there's still going to be 10 years of content. So
and there's so many side quests as well.
Yes.
So one thing I'm curious about as a professional localizer is we had a discussion a while ago about, when I grew up, professional translation, at least in anime, was every word needed to be translated, even if there were some, Japanese sayings or Japanese words. And I see the evolution of localization where I'm not sure how it is in gaming, but especially in anime, there are some words that are slipping through the crack now in terms of, maybe sensei or senpai or san being left in like not only the subtitles, but even the English dub of some shows as well. What is your take in terms of, do you translate over a Japanese word? Where do you think that line should be?
I mean, it depends on the game, I suppose. Depends on the setting of the game. I can't imagine, if the setting of the game is supposed to be, for example, like in, 16th century Poland, you don't want to have a he's my sensei
Yeah.
in there. I mean, yes, probably he's a great, he's a great swordsman and he was your teacher, but I don't know if you'd want to put a sensei in there.
I think there's an anime in 1600 Poland, Orb.
Orb, yes.
Orb is
yes.
1600. It's about the Catholic Church, well, just church in general.
It's about heliocentrism.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is though, is that, language does evolve. We do borrow words. That's the thing with English. English is just the borrower of all languages.
Right.
I mean, you look at the lexicon of Japanese, they say that it's probably around 80,000 words. When you look at English, it's like 400 to 500,000. It's because we just borrow so many different words and we just keep adding things. And so if the game is taking place in a modern setting, then you would imagine, yes, if, the kids are using senpai, then they would use senpai in the game as well.
Right.
But I would just say that, again, words do carry that cultural background that you wouldn't, you wouldn't hear the word senpai in a 1930s gangster movie from America because that wasn't in the lexicon back then. So if your game is taking place in 1930s America, probably shouldn't use the word senpai. But
there's a part of me that really wants to hear
well,
that.
I mean, but that's the thing. It's
Tony senpai.
Tony-san.
What do you up to Tony senpai? Hey, Tony-san.
Tony-san. We're the Yakuza. I mean, that would actually be a great game that I'd love to play. But I mean, it depends. And again, it depends on what you're going for.
True.
So I think that there's room for all of that.
Yeah.
It's just you have to choose because it could bring you out of that immersion. It's because it's all about immersion. Whether it's anime or manga or games, especially games that you're playing yourself, it's about the immersion. And so you're going to want to think about, how do I keep the player immersed in that world? And so knowing that terms will sometimes pull out and use the wrong term. And it doesn't even have to be a Japanese term. And you could use a term that's too modern. Like for Final Fantasy 16, we had a, in our style guide that I created, is that we wanted to make sure that we used, most terms had to be 18th century or earlier.
Right.
Oh, okay.
That we didn't want to use anything that was too modern, that all different turns of phrases.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, we didn't want it to sound too hardcore and be inaccessible. So basically it was just that a lot of the words that we use now are pre-18th century. It's just that a lot of set phrases can be modern. And so it was about avoiding set phrases that are too modern and finding maybe older equivalents to those. Or if the older equivalents are just too cryptic, then just find a different way to say it. But not use modern turns of phrases because we wanted to maintain this feel that it was, it's a period piece that takes place in a more medieval setting. So we don't want to use modern turns of phrases.
How much research did you need to do for that in terms of?
We got a subscription of the Oxford English Dictionary. And when we were using new turns of phrases or words that kind of felt modern, I would go into the OED and see when was its first use. If the first use was 1920, then I'm like, we can't use this.
Yeah.
It sounds old, but actually it's from 1920, so we can't use it. And we kind of did the best to avoid stuff that was too modern sounding.
I just played Final Fantasy Tactics and it was amazing. And the whole time reading this, and some of these words I've never heard of.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's a mix of me being stupid and uneducated, but also obviously, a great deal of research. And I was thinking is there just a guy? Is there a guy on standby they have who's the guy for older English? They call him up and they're like, all right, Smith, we need you in here.
Just a linguist.
We do have editors that are specialists in Older English as well.
Right.
And so the translators, again, do a lot of research on their end. I know the Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions remake.
So good.
And, this version iteration, the people that worked on that, like Joseph Reeder and Tom Mills, they have a lot of knowledge in that high fantasy language. They've done a lot of research, done of reading in that, and they're very well versed in that. And so they're comfortable creating that. And then we have editors, again, over in the UK, the editors that worked on Final Fantasy 16 also worked on, the same guys were involved with Final Fantasy Tactics as well as their voice recording. And so they're there making sure that things are consistent.
Really good.
Things that, we don't have too modern turns of phrases, or we don't have, a lot of times with those British based, British voiced games, we try to also avoid Americanisms, like terms that are American and not British. We'll try to make sure that we're not saying autumn and that we're saying fall or things like that.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. It's because I've been like just completely ruined by all this. Well, I guess being all over the internet and living in Japan, and I don't know which words I have that are. I'm like, is it depot or depot? I forget which one I say. Or I like some of these words. I'm like, which one do I say again? I don't know. And then I'll talk to my mom and she'll be like, how dare you? But it's so cool. It's interesting. And then it's a good point that you mentioned about, sounding too old as well. Because I remember I took an American friend of mine to the Globe Theatre to watch Shakespeare. And after the show, they were like, wow, it's so cool. You must have been able to understand everything. I was like, I didn't understand anything. But I know Hamlet, so it was okay. I didn't. The words they were saying, I did not understand. And so it's
even the way they're phrased. Yeah.
Well, that's also like poetic as well.
Sometimes it'll be a sentence that you might say, but in all the wrong order to make it sound more dramatic. Or the word, it's like when you sometimes can see online, you can see Bible verses that have changed throughout history. Obviously, that's one of the references that's been around for a very long time. And you can see like 1600, I kind of can get it. And then 13, you're like, what the heck are they saying? It doesn't even look like it anymore. But obviously historical context and what's happening at the time. And, have the Normans shown up yet? That kind of, all this kind of stuff really, changes. And, that's kind of when it starts to get into like, oh, that's the English that I start to recognize.
Right. And again, I mean, there's always the, we want to make it, unique. So we want to go super hardcore and we want to get
like, maybe we should.
But then that's the thing is like, I am guilty of it as well, especially like when I first started out and we're like, okay, we're going to do this high fantasy. It's like, okay, I've read George R. Martin. I need to throw in as many archaic things as possible. People don't need to understand this and this and this. And it gets to the point where it's just like, maybe there's a handful of people that are like, oh yes, I know this word from the 13th century, but everyone else is just like, I don't know what it means. And I think the biggest, like from 14, the biggest one that always pops up is that must needs. I must needs do this. And that's the thing is like, it's used in the Song of Ice and Fire novels a lot. And so I was like, oh, well, George R. Martin uses it. I can use it too. And then they put it in. And then probably like 2 or 3 months, there's a forum post that says, oh, this should be, you just must. There's an extra needs in there. I'm like, no, actually. but then you start thinking about it. It's like, wait, so if 90% of the people are like, this is a mistake. Then maybe I shouldn't just be using this anymore.
And like there is English language, right?
And so that was the thing with Final Fantasy 16, like learning from maybe going a little bit overboard on Final Fantasy 14. For example, there's this character Urianger that goes way overboard. He just ye old English, Dren fair, hardcore. You don't know what he's saying. The thing is, that's his character now. He's a scholar that he's speaking above you in this scholarly language. And so
works for his character.
It works for his character. But the thing is, we went way overboard on that. I apologize.
That must have been a lot of fun though. From like a creative standpoint, that must have been really fun to do that.
It's not fun anymore. No one wants to translate Urianger because they're like, oh my God, Koji, you ruined it for all of us. But that's, so learning from that and then going to 16, like, okay, we're going to do, high fantasy again. It's like, well, what is a good point? We want it to sound authentic. We want it to sound like period piece. We don't want it to sound too modern, but we don't want it to be alienating for a lot of, for our players. And so we looked at what, the Game of Thrones TV show did. Whereas, if you've read the books are a little bit more hardcore on the archaic language, but if you watch the TV show, it's a little bit easier for the masses to understand. The same thing with like The Last Kingdom. They use it takes place in, again, 11th century Great Britain. So you'd think it would be super hardcore. They make it feel medieval,
I mean,
but
it's all about the feeling.
It's about the feel. And so finding that balance where finding the words that, these are modern words, but actually they originated back then. So it's okay to use them. And then finding this balance that feels like it's going to feel natural, so people aren't being like, oh, it takes me out of it when they hear too much of it. That's just really difficult to do. And we were blessed with a lot of time because we were working on the script so early that we could go over many, many different iterations. Whereas I know a lot of games, they'll be like, here's the script, you've got like 1 month to translate the whole thing. And you just kind of get on the page what you can get on the page. And, because it's about polish. I mean, you spend 6 months on anything, it's going to get 6 months of goodness. If you spend a week on something, it's going to get a week. So.
This reminds me of not exactly a sad conversation, but a humbling conversation. Because I went back to England recently, and one thing that's always in language as it evolves is like slang terms, right? It's every region has their own slang terms, and so one of my friends is a primary school teacher, and one of growing up in England, one of the biggest things I was proud of was all of like the slang terms that we had growing up, right? And
So we also have different slang from north to south as well. Stuff that you would like. You're like, what?
Yeah. And I was talking to her. I was like, oh, what kind of slang terms are the kids using nowadays? And she's like, oh, all of the slang. We don't really have many new British slangs that I know of now. Everyone just uses internet slang words now, like skibbity and Ohio and Riz. And I'm like, oh man, that makes me sad because that's like part of our cultural identity that is just being homogenized.
Well, it's also like the regional identity.
Yeah,
as
the
well,
regional
right?
identity as well.
To be like,
which
you hear someone say that one term and you're like, oh, you're from my neck of the woods.
Now it's just like, oh, you are just on the internet now. I'm like, oh man, that's sad, man.
Yeah, that is true.
It's kind of homogenized slang in a way.
Yeah, that is true.
Because of the internet, just like kind of like connecting everyone.
I don't know if I like
I'm looking
those
forward to the
words.
next Final Fantasy game that's going to have skibbity in it.
Oh, God, no.
I mean, that's like in
someone's
15
gonna lose
years,
their
right?
job.
And maybe if they make another World's End with You sequel, that would work. But oh man,
Oh, God.
No, it's cool hearing about the whole like the timely language that you guys use, because in 16 I noticed that with I forget the character's name, the Odin's character. What was his name?
scared of Barnabas.
Barnabas. When Barnabas does this whole like monologue, it's very like very poetic. And at first I was kind of like trying to wrap my head around what the hell is this guy talking about? But it was really cool because even though I didn't fully understand the full context the first time through, it did such a good job of like really, as you said, like painting that setting of like, oh yeah, this character, even though this character does not talk the way that I am used to, it is so believable in this world. And it just like adds that flavor and vibe in such a nice way. But at the same time, I was like, shit, I need to get up a dictionary. 'Cause I don't know half these fucking words he's saying.
Well, I mean,
I enjoy learning the new words.
I do too.
It's so cool when you're
I do
like,
too.
what does that mean?
Yeah, but so many times I had to pause the cutscene to be like, wait, what was that word?
that was done on purpose. That's part of his character. I mean, if you get further in the story, you kind of understand from his character why he's speaking like that, why he's different from everybody else because of that background. And we wanted to, that to kind of be present.
It's a storytelling tool.
It's a storytelling tool.
totally.
His language, his word choice, his timbre, the way he's talking is all part of that character, not just way he looks or
What's and I'm sure there's some. What is? Because obviously the localization job is so. I mean, it's such an obviously omnipresent thing, but misunderstood. I think part of gaming. What is like the biggest misconception that you feel like you see often with your work?
That we have a lot of control over what we do.
They do just kind of think that people online paint it like you just take the rails. And you're like, it's mine now.
Yes.
I'm running off with it.
Yes, I'm taking the text. I'm putting in all of my ideals and my backgrounds. I'm changing the story. I'm doing whatever I want with it, and completely ignoring what's there. And it's not that. It's not that. It's also that a lot of decisions are not made by Loc at all. They're made by other parts of the teams. And whether that be the dev team, sometimes it's the publishing side. You have brand managers that are like, oh, you need to do something this way. We don't want you to, we've had, even on Final Fantasy 16, there were a couple of lines that we were asked to rewrite because they used terminology that was deemed unacceptable. Again, understandable, because they're like, we have a Square Enix brand. And a Square Enix brand, we don't use these terms. And like, we understand your M for mature, and you get to say these things as opposed to a teen game. But that said, it's still, we have this image to uphold. And, and I get that. From a business standpoint, from a creative standpoint, I'm like, oh, come on, man, let me have some fun. And, I understand. But that's the thing, is that there are so many different, and the also like ratings and how much that plays into things. So a lot of localization decisions for like, censorship in games. And this is, a very touchy subject, because, you do have that original vision, and it's important to keep the original vision. But then you have like a ratings board, and a ratings board is going to be like, well, if you keep this vision, we're going to give you an M rating. And the business side, they have all their numbers. They know that, you know,
the
if
game's
it's an E for everyone, they can get this many sales. If it's a teen, they get this many sales. If it's an M, they can't sell it in these places because these stores don't sell games that are rated M.
Yeah.
And you know, they have all of that data there.
Right.
And so you have these reasons for maybe wanting to change content, because if you don't, then it could get you run afoul of ratings boards. It could get run you afoul of other parts of your company, other, you know, distributors in other countries. There's so many moving parts that, and all of those decisions are made, again, not by localization. Localization doesn't get to decide how many units we're gonna, you know, what languages we localize for. That's not a localization decision. Like
you
which
can just
languages,
work on what you're doing.
that's
Yeah.
projects,
Yeah.
that's publishers. And so a lot of decisions that look like they may be localization decisions are in fact, you know, decisions made by the entire team, or maybe even not even the team, maybe the company, maybe not the developers, but the publishers. And so it's a lot more complex than everybody says. That like we you know, the localizers aren't just like these people that are at, you know, in this other little, you know, office somewhere, and then we get the final game and we just like cut it and chop it in red markers and here's your game, masses. Like it. It's like, that's not what happens at all.
The really popular word that's been online is obviously enshittification. It's been really, it's a term that's thrown around a lot. And obviously with gaming becoming quite fast-paced moving in a sense as well, with indie games and stuff. And recently, obviously, Silksong had I think a Chinese localization that was really, really bad. And that, you know, led to them getting a lot of negative reviews. Is it because do you feel that because of the internet, there has been more localization, but at the same time, there's also been a bit of a disregard for it in terms of like, we'll just figure it out afterwards. I imagine you spent a lot of your time kind of honing your craft at doing this and working so closely with Square that I'm sure you probably have a lot of thoughts on localization and the, you know, the industry and whatnot. But obviously, whatever you can or can't say.
I mean, localization it's very, I mean,
it's a craft. It's
a craft, but it's also, it's easy to be put under the microscope just because it's kind of a language thing.
Yeah.
And also I think that it's unlike maybe programming or art or, you know, creating music that are, you know, things that require a lot of skill. Language is something that's so close to everyone. And if you have a dictionary or a Google, then you can kind of see what's going on in the other language. You have more visibility, I think, in localization. So it feels closer. So maybe because of that, it's easier to pick out, the things, because, you know, if I look at a screen of code, I'm not going to be like, if I'm a coder, yes, maybe I'll like, this is spaghetti code. This is terrible here. But like most of us are just gonna be like,
Yeah, of course.
But when you see the words on the screen, that's easier to kind of like, and so maybe that just, again, because it's more visible, then it's going to get a lot more, you know, scrutiny from the masses.
And there's just a lot more games now. Like, there's so many games, and I can't imagine there is as many like localizers as there are people who want to make games.
Yes.
Right. So I imagine it's kind of a bit of a tough thing.
Yes. And I mean, I've heard this from a lot of people in the industry that's like, they have this game that has, you know, 1 million Japanese characters and they want to translate it, but like there's literally no one to translate it. Like the localizers are all taken up. Because to translate 1 million characters, you're going to need, like if you say that an average person from slow to fast, I mean, you can get super fast people that can do like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. Sometimes you can get people that do like 10,000. But on average, maybe, you know, 3,000 to 4,000 is what you want if you want a good localization. Maybe even less than that if you want like, you know, super detailed localizations. I'm just throwing out numbers now. But even if you do have high-end 10,000 characters a day, you can do the math. How long is it going to take to do the 1 million? So you're going to need a team of a bunch of people that are, and then it's the too many cooks problem that, you can have a team of 10 people doing this to get it done, but it's not going to be consistent because you're going to need to go over it, have somebody edit it, make it sure everything's consistent. That takes people, that takes time, that takes money. And then you have 1,000 other games that are coming out at the same time also wanting to do this. And like, I've had people saying like, we can't find people to localize our game because there are not enough people out there. Localizers. And then like, okay, well then we could just do it in AI. And now you've opened another can of worms.
I'm very scared about having to just play so many games of writing. Like, what the heck is this? Like, I'm dreading the day because it feels inevitable, especially with the problems you've mentioned. It's like obviously some of these people are going to have to, they don't really have a choice. It's like you can't get a localizer, but
and especially if you want to do like smaller languages or like not smaller languages in the sense of languages with a smaller user base. So like you want to do maybe like a Northern European language.
Oh well, I've played games that are in Welsh before because I speak fluent Welsh, and there's some Welsh studios that will do it in Welsh, but it's like. That must be more of a labor of love than
you're doing it for love of the game,
than actually a necessity. Yeah. And I imagine there's probably some government grants or benefits that come along with making that in Welsh specifically. But not a lot of people are playing this. In Welsh. But I mean, it's fun for me because I get to show this language off to people. But can't imagine a lot of people are.
And I mean, and all of that again, it ultimately comes down to it costs the same amount to translate a game into English that it does to translate the game into Welsh.
Yeah.
And how many sales are you going to get from the Welsh version as compared? And so companies will look at it in that sense, and so
as they should,
because again, it raises the price of the whole game because they're you're paying for all of those localizations in a sense, and so. But then it's like, okay, you have the users on one hand, you want to please the users and make sure and create a product for them that's going to be the best product that's out there, but then you have dev costs and. Games are getting larger and you have hundreds of people, hundreds of devs, 5-6 years of development and adding to all that. I mean, a lot of people don't realize how expensive like voicing and localizing a game into each language is. And then you look at like, okay, then you have you localize a game into 10 languages and you have the game localized. And at the last minute, they change one Japanese line. You now have to pay for that 10 more times from all the languages. Like just one word can end up costing, thousands of dollars to change or whatever, because, there's so many moving parts that are involved with that one change. And so it's, I mean, but then it was like, but I don't want to pay $80 for a game. That's kind of where it's coming to now. So you have to, game companies are now going to be in this point where they're forced to like, okay, we need to keep our game prices down. What do we need to cut then to keep the game prices down? Let's cut localization. But then the minute you cut localization, like, oh, this writing is terrible. I'm never going to play this game. And then, of course, because it's like, that the quality is not going to be up there. And so it's an
interesting time.
It's a very interesting time.
Things are changing very quickly as well.
Very quickly. And I mean, myself as a localizer, I'm like, oh my God. Well, but it's luckily I have the primals. So if
well, it sounds like there's no shortage of work as well. God forbid.
It's like, so okay, we're going to have to do another Budo.
Got to pay the bills.
Oh man. But I mean, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Such
really cool conversation.
Very enlightening podcast, I think.
Is there anything you want to shout out to our audience?
Actually, I do want to shout out one thing.
Yes,
I want
please.
this is going to be a shameless pitch.
No. Please do.
This is your time.
So, Final Fantasy 16, we are releasing our first and only lore book, official Final Fantasy 16 lore book, Logos.
Damn.
It's up for pre-order now. We just released a video of a roundtable of myself and some of the voice actors, Ben Starr, Stuart Clark, and Gav, Chris York. They all wrote letters and journal entries for the Logos book, and we had them do actually some readings on this this video, and that's up. But pre-orders have begun. And it's 360 odd pages of new lore for Final Fantasy 16, the World of Valisthea. It's basically a compilation of a lot of the notes that Maihiro-san, the creative director, had compiled together for what we call the Bible, which is basically what we create the game off of, the guide that we create the game off of. And a lot of that stuff never makes it into the game. And so we took all of that great information, and then he allowed me to take some other characters and things that weren't fleshed out, and I was able to go in and flesh those out. So we have it's over 90% new content. So it's not just a rehash of what's in the game. It's not just like we didn't take the active time lore and just copy it into book form. This is mostly new content talking about your favorite characters, places, history. We have like the anthems for not just Rosaria, but also the other nations. Little bits and bobs. It's absolutely amazing. If you enjoyed Final Fantasy 16 and want to know more about its world, you don't need to have played Final Fantasy 16 to enjoy it. You don't need this book to enjoy Final Fantasy 16, but if you've already played through 16, I hope this will make you want to play through it again with a different perspective on a lot of things. You get to understand why Torgal is the way Torgal is. We get a little piece on like Torgal's history.
I need to know the lore behind why Torgal's a good boy.
Yes, why is Torgal a good boy? And yes, this is coming out. We wrote this in English first. I basically did most of the writing along with a bunch of like the voice actors as well as the people from Schlock, John Taylor. So everybody that worked on 16 is a part of this. We brought even one of my favorite fantasy authors, Alex Phoebe, who worked on a book called Mordu, which is one of my favorite books. He turned out to be a big Final Fantasy 16 fan, reached out. I got him to write a little bit of stuff for the lore book. So it's a huge collaboration of a lot of different people. It was written in English first. Actually, they translated it into Japanese.
Oh, wow.
Again, so kind of in line with the game. English first and Japanese. Unfortunately, because of the printing, Japanese is actually going to come out first because the printing is here in Japan and they don't have to send it anywhere. But the English version needs to be sent to America. And
makes sense.
The Japanese version is coming out in December, I think. The English version is coming out in March, but it's already ready for pre-order. Nice. I think it's like $44.99.
We'll have the link in the description as well.
Yeah,
definitely check it out.
Yeah.
And so that's
my
thank you so much. Sorry, thank you for the shameless
pitch, dude. This was such an insightful episode.
Yeah,
I think we're all really stoked that you offered to come on. We're really glad.
Thank you.
Thank you
This
for
was a
coming.
lot of fun. I will come back anytime you need me.
All right,
I'm really close. Like, like 10-minute train
good,
right here.
Good.
But hey, look at all these patrons on the screen, though.
Thank
You
you
want
so much.
to point to your favorite patrons? They're on the screen right now. There you go. That one.
He's been with us since the beginning.
But hey, if you want to support the show, then head on over to patreon.com/trashtaste. And also every single week over on the Patreon, we have Patreon exclusive content. You guys can go check out a brand new one right after this episode. Mudan, play a clip of that.
Obviously my account is a little juiced, but we'll see. We'll see.
It's just a little bit juiced.
Wait, what level? What level are you?
A level.
Say a number.
8. T1. 81.
81.
But if you want to support the show, then head on over to patreon.com/trashtaste. Also follow us on Twitter, send us some memes on the subreddit, and if you head our face, listen to us on Spotify. And again, thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.